Well, good afternoon, magandang hapon, and welcome to today's episode of My PI Dream. Boy, do we have a great episode for you today, and I've been putting this off for such a long time that I'm just excited to be able to put this all together and get it out to you. Now, if you like DIY projects very similar to the pavilion project that we did a couple of years ago, you're going to really enjoy this project. Today's all about doing the pergola and putting a roof on that second floor patio space, what they call a lanai here inside the Philippines, and it's been something I've been wanting to do for such a long time. Well, let's go ahead and get today's episode started. And without further delay, let's get today's video underway. Now, before we go into the nitty-gritty of building this project, I just want to talk a little bit about the scope of why we did it. Now, when we moved to the Philippines and we built our house here, Villa Feliz, we thought we would have some open deck space where we could enjoy the sun and the outdoor space. But one thing about the Philippines is Philippines has two seasons, as I've talked about in the past. It has a dry season and a rainy season. During dry season, it's hot, hot, hot over here. So having an open patio is a problem with all the sun that comes down on you. Then during the other half of the year, we have a rainy season. It's rainy, rainy, rainy. And if you don't have a roof, obviously you can't use that outdoor space as well. So that's why I felt it was necessary to go ahead and put a roof. And so when we decided to do the roof, we had to decide on what style that we want to do. Well, anyway, I got to thinking about some of these beautiful projects I've seen in the past where they've done a design where they've integrated both roofing that's kind of allows light to go through, and we ended up using polycarbonate for that portion. And then also I've seen how they've integrated that with a really nice pergola style with very nice designs and with some of the battens and the rafters and all the things that come with a pergola scheme. And I thought, well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's put both of those together. So I drew up some designs, and actually I drew up several designs, and the end came close to one of them, but none of them are exactly what we ended up. But I'm really happy with the details that we came at the end of the project. Now let's start at the very beginning when we didn't have anything up there except for just the fence railing. Let's take a look at the lanai, and we'll go through each one of the steps during the build to what it finally looks like today. As you know, we're standing outside of our master bedroom. Maybe you don't know, but we're on the second floor right outside of our master bedroom suite here at Villa Feliz, and we're going to do a big upgrade. When we built this house, we made this really nice lanai back here that we thought we would be enjoying all the time. Unfortunately, we didn't take into consideration that Philippines has a rainy season and it has a dry season with lots of sun and heat, and we don't really get to use this area right here as much as we would like to. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a little bit of a roof over here, pergola style. So that's what today's episode is all about. If you follow our pavilion build over here, right behind Villa Feliz, we're going to use a very similar strategy that we used for that. We're going to do some 6x6 posts attached to the floor here with some post bases, and then we're going to use all mahogany, and we're going to put beams on the top. We're going to attach the beam to the side of the house over here, to the top of the post that we're going to put here. We're going to put a small post there. We're going to put a post there, and we're going to put some rafter brackets up here, and we're going to put regular rafters that are going to go across the top, very similar to the rafters in the pavilion. We're going to hop down to the basement, and I want to show you inside the basement some of the materials that I've already secured. Now, this project is not going to happen overnight. This is going to be a compilation of several days worth of work and activity, since it's going to be me and me alone that's doing this project. We'll see how that's going to come out in the end. Let's kind of look down here in the basement and some of the materials that I've collected over the past couple of months. Anyway, this is the polycarbonate sheets. I don't know if you can see, but this is actually 10 mm thick. I chose the 10 mm twin wall polycarbonate because of its insulation factor. I want to make sure that we don't have a lot of heat coming down during the middle of the day. And they normally come in 6 millimeters or 10 millimeters, or you can actually get it less than 6 millimeters, but that's normally standard for roofing around here. I have the polycarbonate that has one side that is protected from the UV, and it will normally say, yeah, you can see here, expose this side to the sun, so that will be the top, because the bottom side doesn't have the UV protection. And you can see I've already collected my wood. Most of this wood was cut from some of the lots around here, so I was very lucky to be able to secure a lot of the wood. Now over here on the workbench, you can see I'm using a lot of Simpson strong tie hardware. This is the same hardware that we used when I built the pavilion. So the post bases right here, you can see little T brackets that we're going to have to be able to join everything together, and we're going to use a lot of these decorative nuts and screws to make it look like a very fine finished product in the end. As well, you can see I've already collected the profiles. These are the profiles that we're going to be using to connect each one of the polycarbonate panels on the top, as well as the edge strips. These are U-profile edge strips that we're going to be used to give it a fine finish, and also to help keep the moisture out, moisture and the bugs from getting into the polycarbonate filler in the center itself, so we don't have any debris and ugliness later on down the road. Now for this particular design, I decided to go ahead and use 3 posts, and there's going to be a post right here in the center between these, so it's symmetrical between these 2 fence posts here. We're going to mount to the wall over here, and then we're going to put another post back over this area right about here to be able to provide support for the backside. Now we're using those rafter brackets that are going to go across here. They're called joist brackets, rafter brackets, but I don't want to put too much weight on the actual roof itself, so we're going to support it by wood post. I'm a big fan of Simpson strong tie. This is what we mainly use for the construction of the pavilion over here, and the hardware is really high quality. 14 gauge metal is what they use inside, and it's powder coated. It looks good with the decorative screws and bolts. They come out looking really nice. What I'm also using to mount these to the concrete, I'm going to go ahead and use these Simpson strong tie. These are Titan HD screw anchors. We're going to use 6-inch. They come in 6-inch and I think 8 or 8.5 inch. And the way these will do, these will screw down through the bottom here into the concrete. Now these are self-tapping. You'll see, here's kind of an example of what it looks like. And these won't rust. These won't have some of the problems that we've had when the contractor we used, he used a lot of carbon steel kind of stuff. And you can't do that for outdoor things, where you end up having things like breaking of all your screws. We're going to end up having to replace all of those screws, basically rebuild a lot of these deck rail system we have here. But this is what happens just in a couple of years when you use carbon steel or anything that's not meant for outdoor use. The next thing I did is I removed the Starlink satellite antenna from its mount over here on this post, because that's where a short post, 6x6 post, is going to go. One there, one here, one over here, and then we'll have one here in the center providing support to the split beams that we're going to have up here. Now the next thing I'm doing is marking off for the brackets, the rafter or joist brackets that are going to be connected to the front of the fascia right here. Now, even though we're putting brackets up there, the brackets themselves are not going to provide all the support. The beams and the posts that we're going to have here is going to provide all the load-bearing support, so we don't really put too much weight pulling back on the C-purlin that's behind the fascia here on the roofing. We want to make sure we don't disturb that. So I did my spacing, and to maximize on the 4 sheets, the 4 4x8 sheets, which this is going to be the last rafter on this end right here, and it's going to extend with some batten over the top, and then the 4x8 sheet will go here. So this will be 1 4x8 sheet, 2 4x8 sheets, 3, and then 4 for the end. So they should work out just perfect to give us plenty of cover here. Now, the complexity here is when you have an angle. As you can see, the fascia here goes at an angle just like this right here. It goes just like this. So to do that, we're going to extend, we're going to make sure that our 4x8 sheet of the polycarbonate extends a little bit further back this way, and then we're going to cut as it goes down. We're going to cut it on an angle, and you'll see when we actually do the cutting, the trimming of the, this will be the only sheet out of the 4x8 sheets that we have that's going to be trimmed so that it contours to the little bit of an angle of the fascia here. Now, since this is a metal bracket, the first one I'm installing here, because the roofing is going to extend here, we're going to have some 1.5 inch battens on the top to also give support of the polycarbonate. This isn't the end. The end is going to be over here. So this is kind of in the middle. So this is going to be the spacer in between each one of the 4x8 sheets. This one, every other one will be the spacer. So that is where I need to make sure I have the most accuracy as far as the 48 3/4 inch. And you're saying 48 3/4? Well, the reason we're 48 3/4 is because the sheets aren't quite 4 feet each. They're actually about 4 1/4 and 4 1/4, and I'm going to use about a 1/2 inch worth of movement room for the expansion and contraction when I put the special kind of H profile that we're going to put on top, and we'll talk about that later on in the episode. The next thing I want to do is I want to measure for the support post height, where we're going to connect the 6x6 post here to the beam that's going to go along the top here. I want it pretty much to be level from this point right here straight across. And what we're going to do is the rafter, we're going to cut a notch in the rafter up to 2 inches and drop it down on top of the beam that's going to go across the top, and that will give us our slope that we need to have water flow away from the house. So let me go ahead and do that. Now this is the first 6x6 post that we're going to cut, and then after we cut it to the length, we'll do some sanding, we'll do some termite protection, and then we'll do a finish on it, and we'll go ahead and put this in place. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a 6x8 beam that's in a 16-foot length like I was able to do when I built the pavilion back there. So I'm using 2 different beams. I'm using one that's a little bigger than 7 foot, and then we're going to have another one that's a little over 9 foot, and they'll meet on a post in the center. One will be mounted this side, will be mounted to the side of the house for support. Half of this, or this will be over half of the 6-inch post right here, and then we'll have another beam that will go from here to the end, crossing another post, and it will be that nice little cutout design on the very end. So right now I'm going to go ahead and sand this, get it all sanded down, put the Selenium termite protection on it, and then do the staining, the Selenium stain that will match the mahogany. After doing the sanding and the termite protection, and also putting the Selenium stain on, the deck staining on the beams, and cutting the little decorative edge right here on the side, I went ahead and installed those. And I'm still in the process of finishing up on some of the hardware, like where we have a T right there. I have one more T still here. I'm going to put that T over here, but it's also attached with these little L brackets. These are all Simpson strong tie, and they make for a really nice fit and finish. Our next step is to get the rafters started. So I'm going to be working down in the workshop. I'm going to be cutting, sanding, doing the Selenium, and just like we did with the beams up here. And I have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now down in the basement, I cut out all the rafters to length. I didn't do any of the special features like the little decorative cutout like you see on the beam right here. I haven't done that yet. What I wanted to do, I just wanted to get the proper spacing, particularly for this. This is the polycarbonate. Now I'm going to go ahead and start working up here on the lanai instead of doing the work down in the workshop, because it's a lot easier to be able to do the sanding up here, cut out the little feature here, go back and do the notch. Now the notch is it can be a little tricky, but since this is only going down about 4 millimeters on the end, and the notch, what I'm talking about, is what's going to hang over on the end. You see right now, all of these are there, but I have about 4 millimeters of space, and we want it to sit nice and flat, because if you don't, gravity will pull these things away from the house, and we don't want any of these things sliding, putting any undue pulling action on the fascia and the support behind the fascia. So let's go ahead and work on these. I put this little tarp here because it's been extremely hot here in the Philippines. I mean, extremely hot. And this will give me a little bit of relief from the heat during the daytime when I'm doing this effort here. With the beams in place on top of the posts, which are securely fastened to the foundation, and the rafter setting on top, all connected by this nice Simpson strong tie hardware. Both the L brackets where the rafters are on the top, and the T brackets, and also the L brackets that connect the post. Again, we have plenty of strength and support for all of our roofing needs here. Now the next logical step is we're going to go ahead and start putting the batten on the top, and the batten is going to lift up about 1.5 inches above the rafters, and that's what we're going to secure our polycarbonate 4x8 sheets of paneling on top. So let's go ahead and work on that. All right, here it is, the end of the day. This would have been a quick job doing this portion right here, except for all this wood I had to prepare from raw wood. So that means cutting, sanding, termite proofing with selenium termite proof liquid, and also doing the staining. And that took most of the day for today, but you can see, you can get an idea of where we're going, and I'm really happy. One of the things I want to show you is how I attached the batten to the rafters up here. See these little brackets right here, these L brackets. What's going to really permanently hold these in place is when we put the polycarbonate sheets on the top, and we're going to drill a hole, and we're going to put very long screws that's going to go through the polycarbonate to the rafter, and that's what's going to secure both the polycarbonate and the batten to the rafters. Now that I got half of the batten that sits on top of the rafters here, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of the sheets of the polycarbonate, and we're going to run one of the pieces. We're going to actually install one of the pieces. So let's head on down to the basement and take a look at the polycarbonate material. Here's our polycarbonate panel that we're going to be using for our roofing material. Normally this comes in a 4x8 sheet. You can cut it to the length. It'll come in sections like 6 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot, 16 foot when you purchase it from your vendor. We purchased this polycarbonate, and this is twin wall polycarbonate sheets right here. We purchased this from a local polycarbonate shop here in Lipa called Polylite, and they were very quick with getting the items in, and I'll leave a link at the end of today's video if you're in the local area and you're looking for some high quality polycarbonate sheets. Now polycarbonate normally comes in two types. It will come in either something like this, a twin wall, or it will be a solid sheet. It will be solid all the way through. Now the advantages of the twin wall, as you can see, it's hollow in the center. It has like baffles that go all the way through. And this will provide an extra layer of insulation. So if you're in a place that you're worried about the heat going through the top and making it very warm in your personal area, your personal living space that you're going to be using this for, maybe polycarbonate made with the twin wall might be for you. There are advantages and disadvantages to both, and you can check them online when you're looking at the different types. Also, they come in different thicknesses. Now for the twin wall, what we're using here is we're using 10 millimeter. This normally comes in 6 millimeter and 10 millimeter, but I use the 10 so we have an additional bit of space inside here, again for that insulation factor. Now one thing I have to mention about these polycarbonate sheets is they have a top side and a bottom side. The top side is the one that's going to be exposed to the sun, as you see right here, because it has an extra layer of UV protection on the top. There are also some accessories that are, I would say, are necessary for when you're installing. And we're going to go through the process as we do this. But the main thing has to do with sealing to make sure that you don't get any nasty things inside if you're using twin panel sheets like we're using right here, because it's all open inside. We don't want anything to get in there like insects or mold or dust or things that will be not attractive later on as we have these over the years. We have a aluminum sealing tape. We have a porous filtering tape, and if you want to, you can use this EPDM foam tape, and I'll talk about each one of these. Well, let's go ahead and start with the sealing tape. Now, the sealing tape is going to be used at the top of your panel, and it's going to do exactly what it says. It's going to seal. So what we're going to do, on the top, we're going to remove this protective tape up here, and we're going to put a layer, just like you see this extra white layer here. We're going to take this one off, and we're going to put the layer of the aluminum sealing tape up here to seal this in so nothing gets into it from the top. No moisture, no bugs, no dust or debris. And the nice thing about the sealing tape, it's different from if you get stuff like air conditioning tape. You see, even though it's aluminum, it has a special adhesive on the back that won't do any damage to the polycarbonate sheet. Because polycarbonate, when exposed to certain type of adhesives and chemicals, it can actually do damage to the sheet itself. And we're going to be using the porous filtering tape. And why do we not use the sealing tape like this one over here on the bottom side, which this is going to be used on the bottom? Because on the bottom down here, we want it to breathe. We want anything, for some reason, if there was condensation inside, if it does get inside, we want the condensation to go through this porous tape on the very bottom so it can go. This can breathe inside, so it doesn't trap anything inside. As well as we want to make sure that this material can expand or contract a little bit, because polycarbonate is not a 100% stable type of material. It will expand or contract based upon the atmosphere's conditions like the heat and the sun and things like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do on the top, I'm going to add this U profile here, and this is what U profile looks like. It looks just like that. It looks just like a U, and it's going to cover over the top of the aluminum sealing tape. So I'm going to start by putting it on the top up here, and I'm going to score right behind it. So we'll fit this up here. We'll score lightly to remove the tape where it's going inside here, so that it'll be easy to pull this tape off later. Don't pull this off until you get it up on the roof and you're ready to go, so you don't do any damage to your polycarbonate sheet. So we're going to put this, score it, remove this, put the sealing tape on, and then we're going to put the profile on. Now, before we put the aluminum sealing tape on the top up here, just make sure there's no debris. If you see anything inside this area, maybe it was a cut end from the factory and there's some debris, go ahead and get a vacuum cleaner and go ahead and suck out whatever you can, or blow with a blower with some air pressure from this end to the other end to get rid of all those pieces of debris inside your panel. Before we go any further, I talked about a different profile earlier, and this is the H profile right here. Our H profile looks like this, and you can see there's a little rubber seal on both sides. This is the bottom side. We're going to flip it over when it goes on the top, and one edge of one panel of the polycarbonate is going to go on this side, and one edge is going to go to the other. Now, it doesn't come pre-drilled, so I'm going to have to drill. I went up on the roof and I went ahead and marked out all the places where the batten contacts the rafter on the top, and I'll drill through these, and then we'll put another screw that goes through there, and the screw will keep this down in place, pushed down on both of the panels, so we have a waterproof gap inside this area right here where the two panels meet, so we don't have any leaks. Now, to ensure that we don't have any leaks even in the whole area, because it's like a channel, so water's going to be flowing right through the center here, I have this special kind of screw and a little grommet here, a little rubber washer, and this is going to fit inside the hole right there, and when it pushes down, it will act like a waterproof seal, so you don't have to worry about any water penetrating through the little hole in the center of the splice in between the two polycarbonate panels. Now that the pergola project is done, the roofing material's in, all the wood is in place, it's all secured down, and this project is pretty much done. But then what I looked at was the deck railing. Now this is our deck railing. This is the new wood that I purchased at Wilcon, and I'm not really happy with this product. This manufacturer, new wood, there's lots of problems, and this isn't just up here on this deck railing, but it's also downstairs on all the deck railing. It has a habit of cracking. You can see the crack here, or let's see if we can get a better view. Let me show you a lot of the cracking. You can see, look at the size of the cracks inside here. So it's really not a good product in my mind. So because it detracts from the visual beauty of the natural wood up here, we're going to do something a little different here. We're going to use the posts, since these are already embedded in the concrete. And my idea, my concept, which you can see, I already have my workshop kind of set up down inside my driveway here, is I'm going to clad. I'm going to use mahogany wood for cladding around here, and we're going to build our new deck railing inside here, but use something a little bit different. And I'm in the process of ordering all of this right now, but you're going to see we're going to use like an aluminum tubular for the replacement of these type of pickets in between each one of these deck rail system here. Back down here inside the basement, I started this project yesterday, and you can see I've already cut a lot of boards. I did the milling out of rough timber, and these are the boards that are going to be used for the cladding around. Well, this is an example of what it's going to be like. This one was a test, and it made me realize that I have to go a little bit bigger. You can see with the little crack inside here when I tried to fit it around the posts like this right here. Now, when the posts are cracked and they're wider, they're actually wider than the 3.5 inch dimension that you have here. When I fit it over, it split the actual seam that we had on this test post that I have here. So this is the concept, and these will basically slide over the top, slide all the way down, and then we'll build rails that go across to the side. So let me go ahead and get started milling some more wood, and we'll hopefully make some cladding that's a little bit more appropriate in size than what I did here on my test post. Now that everything is assembled and we have clamps holding it in place, we're going to give this 24 hours to allow this to dry. Alright, with this plane down to the approximate width that I need for this post cap over here, we're going to do a test to see that this fits on properly. Then we'll do the final sanding, applying the Selignum termite proof, and doing the final staining, and then we'll go ahead and drop it over the existing post that's up on the patio lanai. Now here's a quick tip. After you have applied the Selignum all around clear, or whatever termite prevention that's used, and if it's liquid, go ahead and wait for it to dry, and then after it dries, do another light sanding, because what happens, the moisture from the termite preventative, it will raise the grain a bit. You want to smooth it all down before applying your final coat of your Selignum decking stain, or your decking stain of choice. With the post cladding done, we're going to go ahead and fit it up on one of the posts up on the patio lanai on the second floor. If this fits good, then we'll go ahead and proceed and make 6 more of these, and we'll be finished with the post, and then we'll have to start working on the rails. Now I'm really happy with our post cover right here. This actually matches the pergola, all the wood that we have for the entire pergola build, and it's a lot better than the new wood composite deck railing that's kind of falling apart over here. So we're going to end up removing all this, since I think this is going to work out really well. Now, something I also want you to see is, you know, on the bottom of the post here, the post base here, it's actually drilled into the foundation, into the slab, and that's providing physical support for the load bearing post that we have right here, the 6x6 post. But it also has decorative covers. These are decorative covers on the side. This is the one that's connected to the base. Now, if I can find the same decorative covers for this 4.5 by 4.5 inch post, we're going to do the same. It also helps by lifting the wood up off of the floor itself, so you don't get any wood rot. You don't want this touching the floor. In case there's rain that sets up right here, you don't want it setting up, even though this is treated. Now, since this looks real good and I'm happy with this, we're going to go ahead and move on to fabricating the other 6. We have 6 more of the posts that need to be done inside here. Let me get those done, and then after we do the posts, we'll start working on the deck railing. Well, now that I have all the post cladding in place with the caps on the top, what I'm going to do is add something for the railing. And I found these really neat deck railing brackets inside here. It's by a company called Tascoco, and I got these on Amazon.com. And basically, we're going to mount them like this here. There'll be one for the top rail and one for the bottom rail, and I've already marked them off so that they're all the same height from the bottom. And once all of these are mounted into place, I'm going to have to go down into the workshop and mill some wood. I'm going to mill some wood that's going to be about 1.5 inch wide by about 3.5 inches high, which will fit right inside the slot of this bracket right here, flush to the top, and then I will mill another piece of wood that will go over the top of that to form sort of like a T, and that will be the top of the rail. Well, I happened to be shopping at City Hardware today for some other parts for the project, and I found this awesome post base cover, this decorative cover, and I was like, would I be able to fit it around mine? Because my base is 4.5 by 4.5, and that's an odd size, because remember, I milled this. I created this myself out of raw lumber. Most everything is like 3.5 by 3.5 or 3.6 by 3.6, which is the typical size for a 4x4 post. And I looked at this and I measured it, and oh, this is going to be the perfect size. It's very inexpensive too, 175 pesos, about $3. But I wanted to make it black. This is sort of brown. It came in 2 colors. It came in this color and a lighter brown. But then I found some paint that's kind of a matte black and will work for interior exterior, and I painted it, and I think this is going to work really great around the base of all the 4x4 posts. Now, I am really happy how this came out. This little decorative trim that I just picked up from City Hardware, it came out nice, really, really nice. Now, next step, after I get the rest of them installed on the 5x5 posts that I have, is to go ahead and start milling the lumber for the fencing that's going to go on here. That will be probably another couple days. I got a break tomorrow, going out with some friends to Tagaytay. Now I'm down to the last 3 railing sections that I'm gluing together, the top piece to the bottom part of the fence railing inside here. And there's glue that holds this down. I've got it clamped down. I have it on 3 sections, that one section there, as well as this one and this one right here. And then as soon as I pull the clamps off of those, these are all done, except for the last step is going to be putting those little posts that go in between. And those are on order. I have those on order on Amazon, but it's taking a really long time for me to get those. So what I did, I took advantage of the time while we're going to be waiting on that and these are curing. I went ahead and mounted our Starlink antenna. This is the extended Starlink mount that I picked also up on Amazon.com. And you see my Ubiquiti nano station. I think it's the M2. And that one is painted black now. You see, I painted it. It was white, and I wanted it to match the rest of the cord, the rest of the trim work that we have here. And if you're asking the question, oh James, won't paint attenuate the signal for your access point? Well, no it won't, as long as it's not a metal based paint or anything that has lead in it, so it's not going to hurt that whatsoever. So those are in place, and we're just waiting on the post. Something else I picked up on Amazon.com is this Simpson Strong Tie, this bottle opener. And the bottle opener, as you can see from the picture, it will mount on one of the posts inside here, because we tend to enjoy refreshments around here. And it'd be nice to have a bottle opener here while we're sitting here relaxing on the lanai. Now, the first thing I'm going to pre-run a bunch of these. These are 12 volt DC low voltage accent lighting right here, the LED you can see. And I've already started some just as a test to see what it would look like from the outside, to get an idea of what else that I want to do. And you can see here, they're in different places. What I want to do, I really want to accent the outside of the post and give a little bit of light here, but not blinding us inside here, which is why I put it on the other side of the post. I mounted a few already, and they look good. It just showed that I needed to mount a few more. So I have one here in front of this post, and I have one on the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and install just a few more, then I'll tie them all together. Now, to kind of hide the wiring that's going to go to my power supply, which is underneath this little gobbledygook of wires over here, which I'll clean up later on. There's a 12 volt DC power supply over there. I'm going to run all the wires underneath the WPC floor decking inside here, in between the joist, and run it underneath there. And being everything that we're going to do is going to be sealed, we don't have to really worry about moisture. It's the same as running the wiring that you have for landscape lighting out inside your yard, which is what we have already. Well, our balusters finally came in, and those metal balusters are down in the basement. I'm going to have to cut them once I get a precise length from the top to the bottom of the top to the bottom rail. Now, the way you install them is you have these little clips. I've already installed 3. You can see right here. They go on, and your little baluster slides right over it. I pre-drilled all these holes, so it'd be much easier for the screw to go in, and we don't have any cracking. You just set that on. You put a screw through here, and then you take either a screwdriver, or for simplicity, I've got a driver right here, and just drive it down into the top and the bottom rails. And then the next thing is to actually get the rails themselves and put in between. Well, we are done for all of intents and purposes, other than putting the WPC decking in, which will be a separate video. We are done, and I'm really happy with the results of the way this project came out. Whew, here it is, the end of the day, and I apologize for this being such a long video, but I did not want to break this into 2 videos because we're actually going to do another part, and it has to do with putting the wood decking, or the simulated wood decking, something they call WPC over here. Well, anyway, there were a couple of things that I didn't bring up inside, and it had to do with, I think one of the things I was going to explain was not just the sealing tape and the aluminum tape, but also the EPDM tape. We didn't use the EPDM tape in this build because there was such small amount of space that the polycarbonate was sitting on top of the batten, very small spaces inside there. But if you were attaching polycarbonate on something like rafters and you're sitting on that long length, the EPDM foam tape is used to allow the polycarbonate to move back and forth because we talked about it expanding and contraction. And there's another thing that I failed to mention inside here that's very important, but I didn't get any of the video, and that's having flashing tape. Make sure you put flashing tape between your fascia or your wall and your roofing material, in this case the polycarbonate. Make sure that if you're using flashing material, that it's something that won't do any damage to your polycarbonate material. Well, that's about it. I tell you, this was a fun project. This is one of the most fun projects that I've done here at Villa Feliz for a DIY project, and I hope you enjoyed it. And you know what? If you did enjoy it and you enjoy these type of projects, please give me a thumbs up, please share, and if you have not subscribed, just click on the little MPID Dream heart in the bottom right hand side of your screen. You'll be subscribed and you'll be notified the next time I upload a new video. So until such time, from right here in the very beautiful Philippines, you have a wonderful and blessed day. If you enjoyed today's episode and you would like to see more just like these, just click on one of the helpful links over to your right and you might be able to pick up on some good information on DIY projects, how to, or if you are interested in moving to the Philippines and building, you'll find answers there as well.